My name is Paula Thomas. I am the founder and chief executive officer of Let's Talk Loyalty and Loyalty TV. And we are the world's leading podcast and TV channel for loyalty marketing professionals. Before I introduce my amazing two guests, I want to just give a brief reminder for why we're here today. We're here to talk about innovative and compelling strategies to create next generation customer loyalty, particularly beyond traditional insurance policies. From my perspective, we see that banking, financial services, and insurance in particular are seeing massive shifts. And most excitingly, I think there's no doubt that integrating travel experiences into their propositions is a powerful tool to enhance customer satisfaction and differentiate offerings globally. So today we're going to talk about current opportunities and challenges that insurance brands are facing to attract and retain their most valuable customers. We're also going to talk about key findings from Collinson's Consumer Insights Research, including specific spending habits and expectations for consumers in Asia Pacific. So let's get into the introductions. Firstly, I'm going to introduce Aditya Tibrewala, who is the Chief Executive Officer for Sompo Insurance in Thailand. Adi has a deep passion for numbers and problem solving, demonstrated through his academic background in mathematics and actuarial science. He has a strong analytical mindset and expertise in risk management, and he's dedicated to helping people understand that while risks are inevitable, insurance offers essential protection and peace of mind. Adi ensures that insurance is not only a necessity, but also a timeless trend, which ensures that people are prepared for unexpected situations that could otherwise result in significant loss or hardship. Beyond his professional expertise, Adi is passionate about management and eager to innovate and contribute to the growth of Thailand's insurance market. So, welcome to the webinar, Adi.
Thank you, Paula.
Great stuff. And we're also joined by James Ellis, who's the Vice President of Business Development for Asia Pacific for Collinson International. James is passionate about partnering with clients and working with them to design holistic programs that drive true change within their business. For over 15 years, James has worked in the Asia Pacific region, leading and managing teams to build strategic solutions for brands in various industries, including financial services, travel and hospitality, fast-moving consumer goods, and electronics. Having a keen understanding of how customers' expectations have evolved over the years, James incorporates these insights as he shapes the design of his clients' programs from discovery through delivery. As a business leader, James has extensive experience leading high-performance teams in Asia Pacific to achieve growth and success for clients. So, welcome to the webinar, James.
Thank you for having me, Paula.
Fantastic. And we love your lounge behind you. We were just commenting. I think you've got the best virtual background, huh?
Oh, you're too kind. Thank you. This is actually our new lounge in Hong Kong. It's the Cairo Lounge. So yes, we're very proud of it.
Fantastic. Great stuff. Well, listen, we have a lot to get through today. So, Adi, I'm going to start with you. First of all, congratulations on your recent appointment to the Chief Executive Officer of Sompo Insurance in Thailand. Now, just before I ask you to introduce the business, as you know, on our show, we always have a favorite opening question with our guests, just to get some sense of you as a leader. So with that as a background, I'd love to just ask you, Adi, what would be a favorite non-fiction book that you have read throughout your career that you found really useful and maybe something that you learned from it?
Okay, non-fiction. So it's not a new book. It's one of the books by writer Will Thorndike. It's called The Outsiders.
Mm-hmm.
And actually, this book is about 8 CEOs, unconventional CEOs in the US market, and their journey, how they sort of take their company from level 1 to level 10, I would say. One of their names is very famous, I think Warren Buffett, Berkshire Hathaway.
Mm-hmm.
But apart from that, there are like other companies like Teledyne, TCI, and these CEOs have been like totally unconventional in their approach.
Okay. That's another one to add onto my reading list, Addy. So thank you for that. I do love unconventional leadership. And I know Warren Buffett is renowned actually for reading, I think something like 6 hours a day. So that's an amazing one. Thank you for that. James, again, similar question to you before we talk about Collinson. You must have some books and some things that have inspired you over the years. So anything nonfiction talking about life or leadership or loyalty, give us one.
Yeah, absolutely. So one of the books, Paula, that I came across during my time working in sales was it was a book by Lisa McLeod called Selling with Noble Purposes, and it's one that I get my team to read as well and understand. And it's a philosophy, in short, around how if you don't understand what you're going to bring to a customer, you're never going to be able to effectively sell to them or to give them any ROI in their investment. So it's taking a lens and looking rather than what you have, but what they need, what they're trying to achieve, how they're trying to achieve it, how you can improve in their current state and take them to the next level. And I think it really ties into some of the work that we do as well as around, how do customers engage with their clients and understanding what their clients need. And if you do have that deep understanding and you go to the time to really get a feel for what your customers want, you do have a lot more success in everything that you do. So I really encourage all my team to read that book, and I think it's something that we take in in any meeting is to understand from the other side of the table and focus less on yourself but more on others.
Lovely. Yeah, that's a true marketing mindset, James. And I can certainly say with my team, I often say, are we thinking about the listener? Are we thinking about our partners? So absolutely. So I love that word noble. Super nice. So thank you for kicking off with those really insightful books, guys. Addy, back to you. For people who don't know the Sompo brand or the insurance market, perhaps in Thailand, would you mind introducing the business? I know you are an insurance industry leader, and tell us a bit about what your team key focuses are for this year.
Sure. I think so. Just a little bit going beyond Thailand, I think Sompo is a global multinational insurer. We are based out of Japan. We mostly actually deal in the property and casualty insurance business, which is insuring your house, car, big industrial plants, oil and gas fields, and many other assets of the corporates and the individuals. Apart from that, Sompo is also into nursing care business in Japan. We are the largest nursing care company. Globally, we have roughly 80,000 people, $35 billion US revenue. We are over in 30 countries, and one of the countries being Thailand. In Thailand, we are not a major player. We are one of the emerging insurance companies as we are expanding our footprints, and that's being the key focus. Historically, we've been more focused on insuring Japanese assets outside Japan, with more globalization and internationalization of our company itself. We are sort of expanding our footprints in Thailand and providing the same products and services in a different way to the Thai corporations and Thai public.
Amazing. Great. And I know you have actually some very creative and innovative strategies we're going to talk about today. So
Sure.
definitely shaking up an industry, I think, which has been quite traditional in many countries. So really looking forward to talking through all of that. So James, over to you. So I know Collinson International very well, but particularly, I suppose, for today, I know that in your role, you love to partner with your clients. And again, with a very strong focus on banking and finance and insurance companies, of course, like Sompo. And I know your focus is designing strong customer value propositions and customer engagement programs to help your clients get the most out of their valued customers and driving commercial impact. So I guess my first question, James, for you then is, when you're talking with these clients, what would you say are the current most pressing priorities for them?
Yeah, that's a great question, Paula. And as you mentioned, we do work across the globe with a number of different institutions, particularly in the financial services, insurance, and travel world. And whilst they all have their own individual goals and where they're headed as businesses, there is a lot of commonality that we see across the board. And that comes back to the engagement with the customer. That is a real key. We're seeing more and more focus on that. In fact, we see it as almost a new player at the C-suite table is the customer. It's the next one there is, everything that's done as a business has to take into what that customer is after, really speaking to them in a bespoke manner, not casting the net wide and hoping that it catches. It's looking at individuals, understanding personas, understanding what they're after, and then making sure that they're talking directly to those as much as possible. So we see a real focus on that. And I think there's a lot of energy being put into businesses in order to create those meaningful engagements. One of the other things that we do see as well, and I think it ties back to what we see globally, is that travel is really growing. That IATA recently released figures that showed that the estimation for this year is that there's going to be globally a 5% increase on the amount of travel around the world from 2024. Which is incredible. And a lot of that growth is being found in Southeast Asia, in the emerging markets of Southeast Asia, where we're seeing a lot of growth. And that growth brings opportunity. And I think travel in itself, very aspirational. It's something that people really like to be part of. Companies have a unique opportunity to tap into that and build their brand and build those relationships that they have with their customer base in a way where it's very meaningful and in that travel space. So a lot of the conversations that we're having around the globe and are very much tied to that in ways of looking to harness the opportunity that's there.
Amazing. Yeah. Well, 5% growth in an already huge industry, James, is absolutely incredible. So thank you for sharing that. I know you've lots more statistics to share from the research report as we go through. And Adi, I'd love to just get your thoughts on that. I know you must be seeing a lot of customer preferences changing. So I'd love to just get a sense for you as Sompo, how are you driving customer engagement?
So I think in terms of the customer preference, as I think I mentioned, travel is definitely one of the areas which is growing. We are seeing even more growth in Thailand. The growth is in double digits. People are spending more in travel areas. And I think that, and people who are spending more tends to be more younger generations. The way we manage customer preferences is basically looking at our products and what we offer.
Okay.
And I generally call that if younger generations are traveling, that they're looking for more instant gratification benefits. They're not really looking for okay, I will get my claim after 30 days, 60 days. They're looking for something which is more immediate as a service. I think that's where our partnership with Collinson comes in. And I think another consumer preference is if you see Thailand market, it's one of the markets which has a very high household debt to the country GDP ratio, which means that people are basically living on credit. So, and it's an interesting feature of this market that while the consumer spending and the essentials are growing, at the same time, experiential spending is also growing. People are spending more in dining, traveling, entertainment activities. So, and that's because of the generation shift in the Thai market.
Okay, yeah, I totally agree. I get that sense of insatiable demand, always wanting more, always wanting better. And I guess as businesses, it's our job to respond to all of that. I know, James, you guys have done this incredible piece of research just released at the end of last year, all about travel benefits and customer engagement. So I'd love to get a sense of that research and maybe just some of the more surprising insights that came through for you.
Absolutely. So we did a survey of 7,250 participants across 14 countries in the APAC region, and it was a broad spectrum across all the demographics, and it's really to gain an insight into what is being valued, what are people looking to do, and what are they looking to, where's the opportunity effectively for a number of for our customers to take advantage of what's possible there. And one of the things that really stood out was that, and Adi sort of just alluded to this, in the spend category, travel is taking up a third of people's spend across the region, which is quite incredible, sitting alongside everyday style of spend of retail and groceries and the like. And that was really something that stood out. Now, when we drilled a little deeper into each market and looking at it, some of the markets were quite phenomenal in terms of what they're spending. Singapore, for instance, is sitting at nearly $10,000 per year per person in terms of spend, which is quite incredible. Interestingly, markets that traditional markets of size and volume, such as Japan, were half that, closer to half that. And I think there's a number of contributing factors to that, such as the weaker yen and other things that would have an impact on the amount of travel that's happening from those markets. But what we did see is, whilst those markets may be a little flatter than normal, the emergence of Thailand, where Adi's sitting, Malaysia, these countries, we're looking at $5,000 in US dollars in spend that's coming through. And as we see, that creates real opportunity around that, because there is a lot of people out there actively traveling. That we know that numbers are growing and growing. We know that Southeast Asia is an emerging market, and we know that there's an opportunity to really tie into that travel and build strong, meaningful relationships with that customer base as they continue to grow and travel more and more.
Absolutely. And I think that's exactly why Adi is so excited, I guess, to be working with you guys, is building those meaningful relationships. So clearly, Sompo is no stranger to the world of travel, Adi, and I know you have recently innovated with your travel insurance portfolio. A lovely product called Sompo Travel Joy. So I'd love to just get a sense of, I suppose, the insights and the thinking behind this product. And I suppose specifically to James's point, what is that role that travel plays with engaging with your customers?
Yeah, so I think the first part is, so for us as an insurance industry, I think the travel, the insurance penetration, not everybody buy travel insurance, in the end. Travel insurance was mostly bought earlier for the countries where the visa is compulsory, and the host country wants you to get a travel insurance before you travel to that country, right, for the visa. That's been mostly the primary start of the travel insurance. But I think since COVID, I think COVID changed this sort of thinking. We are seeing a very significant trend where people realize the value of travel insurance. And it has become more of like a forced product to a need-based product. And I think that's where we are evolving as the market evolves. We are taking a very different approach to travel. We are not, as I said, we're not really a big player in the travel industry or in this market specifically in Thailand. But we took up an approach that, okay, how to understand the customer, what are customers' pain points, where the customers are traveling. So we are segmenting down to a very granular level and putting our customers into different groups and seeing, okay, this group of customer, what are their needs? How can we solve those needs? And I'll just take a couple of examples of that. So mostly travel is in Thailand. Thai people, they love to travel to Japan. You ask them about what they like about Japan, they would say food.
Okay.
Right? So people just go for 4 days, short travel to Japan for food. But there's a challenge, right? Thailand as a country is not an English-speaking country predominantly. So people don't speak English, or people don't speak even Japanese. So the language is one of the issues. So what we looked at it is, okay, how do we resolve that issue for the people? So we have something called translation services in our product. As I mentioned earlier, debt to GDP ratio, people don't have a lot of cash. They still spend, but people are not really have a lot of disposable income available in the case of emergency, in the medical cost scenarios. So what we provide to our customers is the cashless service. So basically they can just walk in the hospitals in Japan or anywhere in the world, to be honest, and they'll get a cashless treatment. So that makes them comfortable. This is where I think our partnership is. We said, okay, how do we go beyond insurance coverages?
Mm.
And that's where our partnership with Collinson comes in. Is These days we do see that there are a lot of flight delays, and especially when you're in Southeast Asia, you have a lot of these budget airlines.
Mm-hmm.
You have a lot of these natural phenomena, typhoons, and so flights gets delayed. People are a little bit more impatient, let's say, these days than
Mm. Yeah.
previously. Baby boomers, I would say, they were more patient in life. Um, so at the time of flight delays, yes, you can offer them compensation after 30 days when they come back. How do you solve their problem? Just simple thing. If especially the families with the kids, that's where smart delay comes in. Where if your flight is delayed, just go to the lounge, relax, calm down, take a break, and I think enjoy your holiday.
Mm.
And I think that's really working for us.
Mm.
And these are the things we are looking constantly to innovate, not
Mm.
just really sticking to, okay, how can we pay a claim faster? How can we have more coverages? How do we reduce premiums? Because we have observed that people who can spend $10,000 on a travel,
Mm.
they are not really going to think about saving $5 on an insurance.
Yeah.
So the focus is more about meeting the needs
Mm-hmm.
and bringing the customer back again to our platforms to buy.
Mm. Indeed, yeah. And that is a true driver of loyalty, absolutely. Adi, I know as somebody who has traveled a lot and experienced flight delays, it can be incredibly stressful. I hadn't even thought through the cash situation, of course, a medical emergency. We know in many countries could be disastrous, So having the basic insurance policy is one thing, but then I know you've got these premium policies that I know James is going to tell us even more about to really take the best care of people, as you said, in the moment when they most need it. So James, would you just explain for anybody who's not familiar with this? I think it's a new product, in fact, for you guys, this smart delay concept. So can you just introduce that for anybody who's joining us today and mightn't be aware of the product?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think Addy's done a very good job there as well. But I'll expand a little bit further on it. I mean, look, we're very excited to have Sompo take up our product. And we do believe that it really has. We've created a product that allows customers to have, clients to have a meaningful engagement with their customers in a time of need, which is what Sompo is obviously looking to address as much as possible. To go back to the start, so Collinson International is very much a company where innovation is part of the DNA. It's, how can we do things differently? How can we create systems, processes, products, whatever it may be, that create that engagement with our customer base and build that loyalty as much as possible. The way that Smart Delay was brought together was looking at one of those situations where customers potentially would benefit from having their insurance agency, in this instance, assist them in that time of need. Now, I referenced earlier that there's considerable amount of growth in travel in the coming year, and a lot of that coming from Southeast Asia. And as exciting as that is, that does put a lot of burden on the infrastructure. And whilst we know that countries in Southeast Asia like Vietnam and Thailand and such are investing billions of dollars in upgrading their airports through the region, there's still will be a drastic increase in the numbers, right? And that puts friction on the systems. And when there's friction, there's more likely to be delays, which again creates the opportunity to come in with a fix for clients. Addy also referenced that there's a lot of low-cost carriers in region, and we know that they are more closely tied to delays for varying reasons, but that is something that can impact those airlines. And as such, what we did is we create a system where the customer would register their flight through Sompo or one of the other partners, and we would track the flight. So we have a system that's working 24/7, looking at all the data that's coming through. And should there be a delay, the system is set up within thresholds of however much our customers decide. So if it's, say, an hour, we would then trigger a pass that comes through via the customer. So in this case, it would come through via Sompo, and that would go straight to the traveler who is sitting in the airport and is now aware that there's a delay. and they'll be invited to go into one of the lounges and to wait into the lounge rather than being in amongst all the heavy traffic with everyone else looking for a seat as the airport fills up. So as I said, it's a way where our customers can be a resolve in a time of need, and come through and deliver something that is very meaningful. We know that lounge is aspirational, and that people would like to be sitting in a lounge rather than sitting in an airport amongst everyone else. They prefer to have the luxury of indulging in all the amenities as well as the comfort. And so giving them access to that, it really does turn a negative into a positive in a way. And anyone who's been stuck in an airport, I can attest, is it's not a nice experience.
Totally, James. And what I like actually, just in terms of how you've explained that, is I suppose the combination of simplicity, but also the segmented approach to allow a brand to, I suppose, identify who the most important people might be. Again, control their budgets and then ensure that the right people get to go to the lounge, as many as can be budgeted for, of course. So you've got that end-to-end control, but still giving that immediacy to the person at the time that they most need it.
Very much so, Paula. And that's one of the things that when we would sit down with the client at the start, it's understanding what is the goal. What are you looking to achieve? What's the problem statement here? We hear a lot that moving to real-time fixes is the future, and I think as technology improves and the world becomes smaller and smaller, that there is a demand for real-time fixes. And Addy's already referenced that earlier, is that people have an expectation that, retrospectively going back and claiming something or going through that process, it feels cumbersome, it feels problematic in a way of having to do that. And it's almost like a burden. And I know when I have to put in insurance claims and the like, it can sometimes you have to ready yourself to get in that headspace to do it. And so anything that moves that into a real-time fix is something that we think is going to benefit customers as much as possible. So yeah, I think that's the
real time and digital. Again, I have some medical insurance forms I have to go through at the moment here just for basic stuff. But again, it's scanning, it's all sorts. So I love the digital. So I guess what I'm hearing then is obviously travel, from your point of view, Addy, is very much coming through, I suppose, as a differentiator, particularly in terms of this Smart Joy product. So do you think that's going to continue in terms of travel as a key part of your overall proposition for insurance customers?
Definitely. I think travel is one of our leading products. Obviously, in terms of the revenues, it may not be the leading product, but as the customer acquisition, if I may define that, is one of the leading products. We have acquired more than 150,000 new customers over the last 18 months. We were like the bottom in the rank of travel insurance out of 25 players. I think we were ranked 23rd 2 years back. As of December, we are number 8 in the market. And we are completely digital, largely digital, I would say, player. So it's one of the most important product, and I think it's continued to be that leading product. And I'm very happy to say, I think I meet a lot of my partners, who come to the offices, and they have actually bought Sompo Travel Joy. When I moved in here, and I think I would meet, there were some vendors who were doing a new office relocation. I say, "Oh, I have bought Sompo Travel Joy," and that's really exciting. I think, when you hear that somebody has bought your product, and I think the most interesting part is we have a very high repeat customers. So people who have bought once, we have almost 70% people who have bought it again.
Wow.
Mostly for Japan, I would say. So it's really a key product for us, and it's going to be one of the key products. And I think I'll just add one more thing around. I think these days, products like travel, I would say, is more about experiential insurance rather than the financial loss. Because when something happens, you not only lose your money, but you lose the experience. Whether you are due to medical emergency, baggage delays, flight delays, passport lost, we see claims, interesting claims, like people lose their wheels of the baggage, and then they just get upset how to really manage.
Yeah.
So we are thinking all the time, how do we resolve that problem there for the customer?
Mm.
So the innovation will continue to keep coming in. I think
Mm.
I'm talking to Collinson before as well, as what else we can do. How can we
Yeah.
take it to the next level? Not just about smart delay, but
Yeah.
they have other products which we can look into it.
Amazing. And I know you're also, I suppose, sharing the good news, Adi, internally, I suppose, across the Sompo, different countries and different regions that you said, just
Yeah,
because you've led by doing.
I think Collinson will be very busy now, because we, as the Thailand, probably, well,
Yeah.
let's say we had the headed start.
Yeah.
In my previous role, I was in the Singapore and Asia office, so I'm sure my colleague, they're
Yeah.
all looking at it in different markets: Malaysia, China, Hong Kong. We just had a meeting with China, I think,
Yeah.
2 weeks back,
Mm.
and I'm sure they will get in touch very soon with Collinson.
That's amazing. And again, all you have to say is that market position from down in 23rd or 25th up to 8th in the market. So
Market.
it's proving it's working. And again, back to the whole point of loyalty is the commercial impact. So congratulations. That's extraordinary to
Thank you.
see the impact. So, James, I'd love to come back to your research then. You talked about it earlier, and the incredible 1/3 of, I suppose, credit card spend that is going on travel. I know you work with about 1,500 brands around the world. So I'd love to see, what are you seeing them doing to take advantage of this opportunity with the travel sector in the same way that Sompo is?
Yeah, absolutely. And look, just to go back to Addy's point there before I go on with it, that's great to hear. I mean, we always love to hear the outcomes and
Yeah.
what's coming about from it. And whilst we're big believers, the reality and seeing that growth and seeing new customers emerge and a way to disrupt a pretty a level playing field in a lot of ways. Insurance, it's something that's quite consistent across the board with variances, but it quite consistent. And having a product like Smart
Mm.
Delay come in can really help disrupt, which is great to hear. So very happy to hear that, Addy, and excited about the potential growth of the relationship as well into other markets. From our perspective, so we have, and as you mentioned, Paula, we work with approximately 1,500 brands globally, and we've been around for 35 years,
Mm.
and very much shaping a lot of the thinking when it comes to airport experiences and travel in loyalty engagement in that space there. And we do speak with a number of different companies. And one of the things that we're seeing more consistently is that companies are really focused on effectively owning that travel space.
Mm.
We talk internally about a travel playbook and such. If your companies need to be equipped with a travel playbook to understand how they're going to take advantage of this enormous spend,
Mm.
which is taking up a considerable amount of everyone's spend around the world, and really tapping into that. And we see some great examples. I think Sompo being one. Now Sompo in Thailand, their customers are accessing 1,600 different lounges around the world in case of delays, which is something that Sompo obviously identified early as a way that they could move into Thailand and to grow into that space. And it sounds like that's having the traction that was desired, which is fantastic. If I jump overseas and look at JP Morgan Chase, that they as a bank set
Mm.
about and said, we're going to really look at travel as something that we want to take considerable control of, and increase the touch points throughout the journey.
Mm.
And that led to a lot of acquisition in their space, acquiring different services such as that are all related to the travel ecosystem that will allow their customers have really rich and unique experiences that are tied back to their brand. We see that with their booking systems, they've got loyalty engines, even to the extent of opening airport lounges, and having airport lounges that are branded with Chase Sapphire, and that are very evident to consumers who are moving through airports, that they can see that these is a company that is firmly committed to giving their customers the best possible
Mm.
outcomes when traveling. And
Yeah.
pardon me, and allowing them to access premium services at all times. And the success that they've had is considerable. I mean, if we look at in terms of travel in the US, they're on their way to being one of the largest travel companies. And that's from a bank's perspective. It's merely because they decided that was where they were going to plant the flag and the mountain they were going to climb, and they set about doing it. And they've done an incredibly effective job at doing so. If we come into the APAC region and look a little closer to home, then Commonwealth Bank in Australia, I'm not sure if everyone's aware, but they've recently done a deal with a company called Hopper, which is, again, looking at trying to drive that travel through the bank, and capture that, and giving their customers access to preferred deals and to something that really stands out and creates almost a connection, right? It's like, I'm a customer of this bank, and therefore I'm being able to access something that's premium or something that's very, very much unique. And that level of interaction between customer and the financial services is something that we see as a real way to build out stronger and more meaningful relationships that will stand the test of time. And the beauty of it is that it's not linked to one generation. This is cross-generational. One of the things that we talked about in the study that we did at the start, it was very, very clear that it didn't matter where you sat, or if you were a boomer, if you're in Gen Z, that there is still a really, really high demand to travel and to have experiences. And we see that something that's coming through really loud and clear at all times is that people would really, really like to tap into that. And they're actually surprisingly, foregoing the traditional, foregoing the cashback, foregoing the points and things like that. It's like, create the experience for me. Give me something that wow factor that I tie back to your brand. And when I tie it back to your brand, I've got that real engagement and that sense of belonging as part of something. And that, as we talk about, really creates that loyalty and that long-term loyalty.
Amazing. I had no idea about that Chase branded lounge, James. So thank you for sharing that. I think as passengers, we've all seen banks, particularly, putting their advertisements on gangways in airports. So they're really like striving for that attention in that environment, but taking it into that premium luxury experience, as you've just talked about. I mean, I think that's a whole other level. And I'm guessing that Addy's going to want Sompo brand on some of your lounges now if you're not careful on the inside. Amazing. So obviously it is a case of really connecting that beautiful experience in a whole other level. So clever stuff going on. James, you mentioned demographics, and I do think that's something that the audience would love to just maybe get a little bit more sense, and of course from you as well, Addy. But, we're all talking about, how our demographics are changing. I believe in the research that you guys found that half of Asia Pacific's population are going to be millennials and Gen Z by the end of this year, which is a little bit scary because I am definitely neither of those demographics. But any particular insights for younger demographics that you could share with us?
Yeah, absolutely. And that is the very exciting thing, in that APAC has this burst of youth that's coming through, and it's really, really exciting. And being based in Asia myself, you can sense that, and traveling around the markets, there's energy, and then there's optimism, and there's a lot of hope around the future and what that looks like. And we do the research that we conducted. If we looked at the millennials and Gen Z in particular, as you said, they make up half of the APAC population, which is great news. And Gen Z, for those, they're the ones coming in. They're the ones with on their way. They're spending approximately $2,300 a year, but there's a real opportunity at this stage to capture these people, develop the relationships with the Gen Zs as they go on that journey, because they're obviously going to be the people moving through into management roles and senior management roles and so on and so on. And if you get hold of them early, and if you can really make a relationship stand out and be impactful, we see that there's a sense that they will be brand loyal in a lot of ways. Now, they are very different to a number of the other generations that's been before them. They're very tech savvy. They're very do things in a unique, different manner, but that also means that you can connect with them in a unique manner. We saw, particularly through COVID, where people were moving into an online environment, cookies and the like, and online shopping created a system where you knew a lot about your consumers. You know, you were learning behaviors, you were learning their patterns. It wasn't happening in a retail store, it was happening in an environment where it was very easy to track and understand who was coming through.
Mm.
And we saw that customers during that period got such a sense of, oh, you know me, and you're being able to talk to me, and you're able to deliver things that are meaningful to me. That's great. I want more of that, you know. And the funny thing, you know, some of our research has shown that incredible 44% of people would say, I will share more of my personal data with you if
Yeah.
you create more meaningful interactions with me. Right.
Mm.
And so from that perspective, it's like this generation is here and saying, yes, yes, happy to be brand loyal, happy to give you, but you've got to make it meaningful. You've got
Yeah.
to talk to me. You can't talk to everyone
Yeah.
in the room. You have to make me feel like you're looking at me in the eye and talking to me.
Yeah.
And that's something that's really standing out in our research. We also saw there's an emergence of travel around events. Okay, so I mean, I'm not sure if everyone on this call is a fan of American football, but the Super Bowl was earlier this week. And I know a lot of people who have it as their bucket list trip. It's like, oh, you know, I need to get across to the Super Bowl one day and spend time there. And you know, it was in New Orleans this year. Unfortunately, I wasn't there, but it looks like that was a hell of a party. And that, you know, I think that's the sort of thing that people are seeing around the world. And as you know, the world is becoming smaller. These events like World Cups or
Yeah.
music festivals, people have their eye on those. And this is now a really, really big segment of trouble. Is how do we capture that? How do we create something that is very much linked to those experiences of going overseas and being part of something like a music event or a sporting event? So there's some of the things that stood out for us. You know, we're working with a number of our clients on ways to capture that, you know, to do things a little bit differently, to really go in there and create something that's very, very unique. Yeah, so it was really interesting to see.
Indeed, yeah. And I've certainly seen other research as well, James, talking about the impact, of course, of the likes of Taylor Swift. And again, traveling specifically for that incredible experience and the unbelievable loyalty that she has managed to harness, but also connection, you know, creating those communities of people who love something in common. So definitely seeing that coming through, again, particularly in different demographics. So I know, Adi, you've talked a lot about, again, what you're doing on this innovation front. Is there anything specifically you're doing for these demographics? Because as James said, it's the entry point into a lifelong loyal customer across all travel products, not just, you know, maybe an entry level product like travel, but any particular thinking that you can share around millennials and Gen Z?
I think it's similar thing because as the you know the more younger generation, I won't put them into one basket or other.
Yeah.
I will say you can have a great product, you can have a great service, but if you cannot connect with your end consumer, both are useless. So what we try to do is, okay, as an insurance company, when as a brand which is not very well known in Thailand market, how do we connect to these target customer groups who are traveling, who are spending, who loves experiences? We went through many iterations, you know, traditional way of selling insurance through intermediary partners and then we do all of that. But one of the change we made it is, okay, people use social media. You know, I'm not a social media person. Okay, but yes, when I start using it, I cannot stop using it. Actually, that's the thing. So same way, I think we use a lot of influencers, travel influencers, and we have a segment of travel influencers which target a different geography, different interest areas. So some may be more of a travel food talkers. Some may come from more about adventure travel pieces. So we are actually partnering with these influencers to talk about travel predominantly, and travel insurance as a way for them to ensure that the experience are not kind of interrupted in between. And if so, then how do insurance companies can help? So we use a lot of digital marketing through influencers. We sell online, we sell through offline mechanisms. But to connect with the audience, we predominantly is through a digital space, using different social platforms and different cohorts of the groups.
Amazing. And I'm guessing maybe you're one of the maybe the only travel insurance brands or insurance brands that's really spotted the power of those influencers, because I think it's well known in other categories, whether it's makeup or, there's some that the influencers are really strong in, but insurance is not one that I've heard before in terms of partnership.
Yes, I always, I come from a very technical background, and I always told people, we will flag our wallets, we will flag our, Coca-Cola in our hand and talk about, I'm having a Coca-Cola or something.
Yeah.
Nobody takes an insurance policy and say, oh, see, I have an insurance policy from this company, right?
Yeah.
Because, and I think, and I don't believe that will change, but at least what you own and should create a trust between the consumer and the insurance company. I can say we are not the only insurance company, I would say, in who is doing that. Maybe we are the first ones in Thailand who have really harnessing this digital influencers power. But I know there are certain companies, especially in China, who are doing that, and they're doing it really, really well. So I think, probably, but I'm very excited that we are in Thailand, at least setting some standards.
Indeed. Yes. No better man. Fantastic. And James, then I guess, just from your perspective, with these customer cohorts, if you had advice for people who maybe haven't as yet engaged with them specifically, given that you've had all of this amazing research coming out, any particular things that you can recommend for people on the call?
Yeah, definitely. And look, I think Adi, you touched on it there. Is like we have a generation in the world now where people like to share their moments. And I'll make sure I share my insurance, Adi, next time I have my insurance, and make sure I post that and share it widely. But there are things that people like to share, whether it's their daily life, the food that they're eating, but very much the moments that stand out. Right? And when we look at this group of people, it doesn't matter who they are across the board of all the things, you have to make sure that you're creating moments that are meaningful across any generation. And it has to stand out. And I think Sompo has done an exceptional job of that in moving that into the insurance world, where people now have meaningful moments. We talked about the hospital situation, that's very meaningful. We talked about flight delays again. That's something that's extremely meaningful, to have a moment where you can go and relax. What we would suggest is the opportunities around travel are immense. We know that there's a lot of spend on that category. We know that it's aspirational. We know that people will plan for travel, and it's something that they look to make sure that they get the most out of those moments. So knowing that, that's where companies really need to decide, and I referenced it earlier, what's my travel playbook? What is the play that I'm going to have that separates my business from everyone else in our industry? How are we going to stand out? How are we going to create something that really targets this segment and makes sure that our customers have an experience that they do want to share, because they will, we talked about being in a lounge, and I think, Paula, at the start you said that this lounge behind me is aesthetically very beautiful, and it is, and they're the sort of things that people will promote, and put on their social media, and it's, look, I'm in here because Sompo Insurance, that's the sort of thing that people will promote, and influencers are doing that as well on a broader scale. There's this promotion and driving the benefits that come through, and demonstrating those so that people are aware that's there. So in short, I think the opportunity is very much there, and it's quite consistent across the generations, in terms of travel's a focus, travel's a way to interact, travel's a way that you can have a meaningful relationship with your clients. It's just making sure that you spend the time on looking at the strategy, ensuring that you have a tight fit towards your strategic goals and vision, and then putting the products and the focus around that to deliver what it is that you're after.
So, in order to close, I just want to say a huge thank you, first of all, from myself, from everyone at Let's Talk Loyalty, and to Aditya Tibrewala from Sompo Insurance in Thailand, and also James Ellis from Collinson International. Thank you so much for today's conversation.